You're listening to the I'm Busy Being Awesome podcast with Paula Engebretson, episode number 266. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. How are you? What's happening? Today, we are looking at a visual organizational strategy to help us get a little bit more organized because the school year is kicking off, or it already has, and sometimes we're feeling a little bit discombobulated during this transition time. And I wanted to offer some supports to help us get a bit more grounded, to help us feel a bit more in control of all the different moving parts that often come up during this transition period from summer into fall. And so today, what we're talking about is a visual organizational strategy to help us with breaking down big projects and thinking through problems and making detailed plans. And that strategy is mind mapping. Now, if you have never heard of mind mapping before, don't worry, I've got you, and I think you're going to love it. And if you're already familiar with mind mapping, if you're like, what? I've been doing this forever, I already know, stick with me because we're going to talk about some different ways that you can use it in your life that I think you might find helpful. So today we're going to do an overview of what mind mapping is and different ways you can use it. And then we're going to dive into specifics with examples and everything and actionable ways that you can take what we talk about and put it into use today. And I do want to mention as well that I have a workbook that goes along with this episode so that you can literally take what you're learning and put it into practice immediately. It has different templates to use. It has the step-by-step. So if you want to get your hands on that, if you want to take what you learn and put it into action today, head to I'mBusyBeingAwesome.com/mindmap. All one word, I'mBusyBeingAwesome.com/mindmap, and you'll get all of the different templates and ways that you can use mind mapping in your life. All right, so go grab that. Now, let's dive in. What is mind mapping? So like I said, it's essentially this organizational approach that allows us to visually structure information around some sort of central theme. So it usually involves creating some sort of diagram where you have this central idea placed in the middle of the page, or if you're doing it on a screen, in the middle of the screen page. And then you have these related ideas and tasks and concepts that kind of branch out from it. And if you are watching on YouTube, I will be showing some different examples of this as well. But if you're listening to the podcast, imagine you have some central theme in the middle of a piece of paper with different ideas branching out from it. And the structure is often hierarchical, or now I'm second guessing, hierarchical. Hierarchical. I think that's right. The structure is hierarchical or radial. And then also it allows you to make connections between different ideas. So you can see connections, you can see relationships between these different pieces of information. And you can use the mind map approach for a lot of different reasons. You might use it for planning. Maybe you're planning a vacation. And so you have your central idea of that vacation and then travel arrangements and accommodations and activities, that kind of thing. You can use mind mapping for brainstorming activities because this specific approach really helps to facilitate both generating and organizing the ideas in a really free form manner, which is awesome for brainstorming. You might use it for problem solving. Okay, so mind mapping can be really great for breaking down complex problems into much smaller, more manageable parts and help you understand what's actually going on and find solutions. And then I really like it for learning as well. So using mind maps to help you understand how different concepts are related, and then having that visual component, bringing in color coding or icons and things, all of this can help it really lock into your mind in a new way rather than just reading through some notes. So there's lots of different ways that you can use mind mapping. We'll talk about this more in depth. This is just a quick overview. But again, I really love it for so many different reasons. And I find that mind mapping is particularly powerful for those of us who are visual learners, and we tend to benefit from seeing information laid out in some kind of visual format. And then I also find it particularly supportive for those of us who tend toward nonlinear thinking. When our brains tend to jump to different ideas rather than linearly 1, 2, 3, It's more of a non-linear approach, and using mind mapping can be such a supportive tool for the non-linear thinking when it comes to organizing our thoughts and our ideas. So for visual learners and non-linear thinkers, in other words, many of us with ADHD, using mind mapping can be super supportive. So with the mind map, there are a handful of different components. First, you have that central theme, like I said. So you have your main idea in the middle of the map, and it acts as the starting point where everything else branches off. And then from there, you have your different branches. So you have your major subtopics of ideas that branch out from that main category. And then from there, you might have sub-branches, subtopics from there. So it really just kind of radiates outward, okay? And when we can visually structure the information in this way, it can help us, as I mentioned, organize our thoughts, see the big picture, remember details more effectively, and it's really an effective way for us to better understand what it is that we're working with or what it is that we're thinking through. So with that overview, now let's talk a little bit about why I think that mind mapping is such a great tool for the ADHD brain. So as I've already alluded to, there is that visual approach that is really appealing, and it allows us to see the big picture and the details. So mind maps provide this really incredible visual representation of information, and it allows our brains to more easily see how all of the different pieces fit together. And it helps many of our ADHD brains grasp that overall structure and the relationships between the different concepts. So let me give you an example, because I know this can sound a little bit abstract. So let's say you are making a project plan. So the central idea would be the project goal, the thing you want to do. And then you branch out from that. So you might have a branch of milestones, and then specific tasks, and then deadlines and different resources that you're using. And so you have the main project and then the different components that branch out from it, all of which helps us understand how these different smaller components contribute to the overall project. I also think that using the mind mapping approach is powerful for helping us sequence and break down projects, problems, plans, what have you. So mind mapping really facilitates breaking down the bigger projects, the bigger things, into smaller, more manageable steps. And it helps those of us with ADHD who tend to struggle with sequencing tasks, with understanding the different steps that are required to actually achieve a goal. So if you're planning a move, for example, maybe you have the move itself in the center, but then we can branch out for all of the different things that are required. So we don't overwhelm our brain with trying to hold everything in there. We can visually dump it out on paper. So we have branches for packing, hiring movers, changing addresses, setting up your new space, cleaning the house that you're selling, actually selling the house. There's all of these different branches that you can put around that main category, and then you can branch off from those subcategories into even smaller tasks. The second reason why I really like the mind mapping approach for the ADHD brain is that there is this active engagement. It's a really interactive process, because when you're creating a mind map, usually you're literally drawing or coloring, or you're arranging the information if you're doing it on screen with an app or something. And that can be quite engaging, especially compared to a more linear note-taking, outlining approach. So that hands-on interactive nature of the mind map can be really effective in helping us stay focused and interested as we're manipulating and moving the pieces around, seeing how it all fits together. I think that's especially true when it comes to studying. So I used to have a really hard time just reading through my notes if I was going to have a test or an exam or something. But if I could see the notes, they'd just be kind of laying out there, but then I try and put the story of whatever the information is that I'm learning into a mind map. That's what really helped me stay engaged and see all of the related connections between the different topics and chapters and subjects that we explored that particular semester. And then the third reason, as I've alluded to, that I really love mind mapping for the ADHD brain is that it celebrates nonlinear thinking. It is made for the nonlinear thinker. The mind map approach really embraces this nonlinearity, and it aligns with our natural thought processes. It allows for this free form thinking and the ability to jump between ideas and to see how different things are connecting and draw arrows and make space for all of these different things to come up. And then you can step back and see how they're connected. You don't have to write it out in a perfect list from the get-go, which some of our perfectionist brains can stop us from even starting. But when you can have a mind map and you can use arrows and you can just connect things as they pop up, it's awesome. So during a brainstorming session, instead of trying to list all of the steps in a linear fashion, you can instead create a mind map. You know the main topic, but then you can just keep adding different branches of the different categories and ideas and then see what connects. What do I want to keep? What do I want to just leave off? So overall, mind maps offer this really visual, engaging, flexible way for us ADHD brains to organize our thoughts. And I just think that's a really effective support that we can put into place. So with that in mind, when is it that using a mind map is particularly effective? First of all, I love a mind map when it comes to big picture and finding the details within it. So it can be incredibly helpful to create a mind map when you want to get a better overall understanding of whatever problem or topic it is that you're exploring, because the mind maps really help you to visualize how these small pieces fit together to form that bigger picture. It's really useful for us to understand the relationships, the connections, the associations between these different components of a topic or a project. So for example, let's say you are planning a product launch for your company or something. The mind map can be that product launch, and then you have branches moving out from that for marketing and sales and product development and customer support. And each one of those provides a clear overview of how those areas are contributing to the launch. Because if you have product development, then you have some sub branches there of how that's contributing, or the customer support, or what have you. And you can see how each piece contributes to the big picture of the launch itself. It's also really effective to use a mind map when you want to break down bigger projects into smaller tasks. So if you have that big project, it can be useful to put it in the center of a piece of paper and then break it down into the smaller, more manageable steps, because it helps us to understand what's required and how we can execute it most effectively. It helps us to identify the specific actions that we need to take in order to check this project off the list. So if you're organizing some community event, you might use a mind map to break down things like the venue, catering and entertainment and volunteer coordination. And then you might have sub branches underneath all of those topics. I also love mind mapping when it comes to collaboration and brainstorming. So when you're doing any type of teamwork, I think that mind mapping can really facilitate incredible collaboration and space to share ideas within that team setting. And it provides that visual structure that everybody can see, everybody can contribute to. And it helps to align the team members and ensure that everybody's on the same page, because we can all see, oh, this is how customer support is coming into play. This is how the design team is coming into play for this project launch. Are we all on the same page here? And then, although it sounds almost the same, I'm going to separate this category, which is group brainstorming. So we were talking about collaboration. I'm going to separate out group brainstorming, because when you're using a mind map, it is a little bit different from collaboration to brainstorming. When you are brainstorming with a team, you can allow multiple people to contribute their ideas in this very free-flowing visual way, and it helps us capture this huge range of ideas. And then we can start seeing how they might connect and which ones don't connect. So maybe you're in a workshop setting, okay? And you pull out a mind map And you start brainstorming solutions to improve customer satisfaction. And then you have different branches like service and product quality and communication and feedback and promotion, right? So all of this can come from team ideas, and everybody gets to share their own ideas that contribute to the overarching goal. And then the fourth area where I really like to use mind mapping is around problem solving and planning. So for example, maybe you're using it to do some sort of root cause analysis. Maybe there's an issue with the busing of getting kids to school on time, and there's this problem with some of the buses are late and the kids aren't getting into the homeroom on time. And so you put that, getting buses to school on time, as the central part of the plan. And then you start brainstorming different reasons that might be contributing to that problem. And you're brainstorming different ways to problem solve for getting the kids into homeroom on time. How do we solve for this busing issue? Or alternatively, maybe you are using the mind map for some sort of strategic planning. So you're mapping out goals, you're mapping out strategies, you're mapping out actions for a personal project or a professional project. And doing so can help you create this clear, organized plan. So it might not seem organized and clear at first when you're kind of brainstorming all the things, but once you get it all laid out, your mind can go, oh, I see. I see what needs to happen. I see what doesn't need to happen. I see what's the priority. I see the timeline. I can see what actually matters and what is extra. So again, mind maps are particularly effective in these different situations because they provide that clear visual representation of what might otherwise be pretty complex information. Plus, it helps to facilitate collaboration and creativity and brainstorming. And then it helps us break down and manage tasks in a systematic way. So mind maps can be this really invaluable tool, both for personal and professional use, whether you're working on it alone or collaboratively with a team. It really is useful in so many different situations. Okay, so how do we actually use a mind map? What does this look like? So there's lots of different types of mind maps and mind mapping approaches. The first and easiest is a traditional hand-drawn map. You get a piece of paper, you draw a circle in the center, and you write the main topic, and then you create the branches that come out from it. And this is like I said, super easy, super simple way to do it. And there's no boundaries, right? Because you get to draw the whole thing. You're literally starting from a blank slate. In a very meta way, I created a mind map for this episode on mind mapping, which I am going to show here on YouTube. So there's lots of different ways that you can use it just with the freehand drawing. You can also use templates. Okay, so you can start with a pre-drawn template that has a bit of structure, has a bit of layout. I think this can be really useful if you are new to mind mapping or you want a bit more structure because a blank piece of paper just feels overwhelming. So you might use a template to create a study schedule with predefined branches for your subjects and study times and key topics or something. And again, as a reminder, if you want my workbook that has a bunch of different templates that you can play around with, be sure to grab it. It's totally free at I'mBusyBeingAwesome.com/mindmap. All one word, mind map. Now, in addition to the hand-drawn, there's also a lot of digital options, and I'm sure the digital options will continue growing, okay? But there's lots of tools out there. I will link to some in the show notes. Software like MindMeister, Xmind, Miro is the one that I tended to use most often, although I do prefer handwritten more so, but Miro can be a great one that I've played with myself. And what is really great about the digital options is that it offers greater opportunity for collaboration. There's cloud storage. Now there's more integration with other tools. AI is getting involved like every other online platform. So there's a lot of different benefits of using some sort of digital product. And I think it's especially true in a collaboration setting so that other people can quickly pop in and see it. And then I also do really like it if it's more of a complex project or an ongoing project, even if it's just a solo one, because you can quickly delete and move things around and manipulate them, as opposed to on a piece of paper. If you're using markers or whatever, it's a little bit more challenging to make changes. So whether you are using hand-drawn, handwritten on a big flip chart or a big whiteboard with your team, or you're doing it individually on a piece of paper, or you're using templates, or you're using digital products, whatever it is, there is a rather simple approach to creating the mind map. In other words, how do we actually do this? Let's talk about it. Okay, so it's really essentially a 3-step process, but a 5-step process if you want to add a little bit of bells and whistles to it. Okay, but the 3 steps is, number 1, choose your central idea. So what is the main idea? What is the main topic? Put that in the center of your paper or on your digital canvas, whatever it is you're working on. So for example, maybe you're solving a problem and you want to improve office productivity. Okay, so you might write in the center, office productivity, the middle of the page. Then we start adding the next layer, which are the main branches. So these are the key subtopics that are related to that main central idea. And you draw those branches out, and then you have the next round of circles or squares or whatever it is you're writing in as the sub branches. So if our main topic was office productivity, then maybe our branches would be workplace organization, time management, technology, team collaboration. And then we expand from there with even more sub branches. So you might break down that smaller branch into related ideas or tasks. So underneath time management, you might have sub branches for prioritization, scheduling, delegation, taking breaks. So those are the 3 main steps. You don't have to go necessarily in that order, but this is a general concept. Main topic, branch out with subtopics, and then branch out from those subtopics into smaller components. Again, look at the free workbook, I'mBusyBeingAwesome.com/mindmap. You can check out everything there. And if you're watching this on YouTube, of course, I have some examples showing up as well. Now, I mentioned there are technically 3 steps, but you could add in 2 more if you want to get fancy. Okay, so if you want to use the 5-step approach, step 4 would be to incorporate colors or images if you want to. So you could color code different branches to visually separate them, or to identify who's taking what role. If you're in a collaboration setting, you might use images or icons to make things quickly pop out to you. And then similarly, another option for step 5 would be to add keywords. So if you want just a visual quick reference, you could have single words or short phrases for clarity. So you have accurate keywords that quickly spark the idea or the topic that you're exploring, so you don't have to read through a whole bunch of information. So using short keywords can quickly jog the memory. Now, that's not always effective for some of us. Some of us really need a lot of specifics. Okay, so use what you know is best for you, whether you want to use keywords or you want to use full sentences with full detail. Okay, so now let's talk about some more specific examples of how you might use this. We're going to talk about a couple of examples for personal use, a couple of examples for professional use. I want to dive in a little bit further to help your brain think about how you might use this in your daily life. So for personal examples, one of the areas I really like to use a mind map is for goal setting. So maybe you are mapping out personal goals for health or relationships or hobbies. Maybe I put hobbies, my goals for hobbies, in the center of a piece of paper, and then I branch out from that. And I have, if it were mine, I would have reading goals, crochet goals, horseback riding goals, personal development. Or maybe you want to discover some hobbies, and so the center topic is discovering hobbies, and then you have branching out from there, potential interests, financial commitment, availability and timing, scheduling, right? So you can use it in a lot of different ways. It's also great for event planning. Maybe you're planning a birthday party or you're planning a wedding. And so you have that as your main topic. And then you're branching out for the guest list, the venue, the food. It's also great for learning and studying. I often get people sending emails saying, can you talk about how to study, how I can prepare for tests with ADHD? You bet I can. Try using a mind map. You can study for your exam with all of the different branches for the subjects and the key concepts. If you were studying for my protest through song exam when I was still a professor, you might have the course as the main topic. And then you branch out and you have topics around American history and then different genres and the different artists and the different movements that we studied. And then you could start seeing how all of them interrelate. So again, when using a mind map in the personal setting, you might use it for creating goals, mapping out and planning goals. You might use it for event planning, and you might use it for learning and studying new information. Then we switch over to the professional side. And of course, you can set goals professionally as well, but this is just to generate some ideas. On the professional side of mind mapping, you might use it for project management. So maybe you map out project phases and tasks and deadlines and resources. You might use mind mapping for brainstorming sessions. Maybe you have a new product and you're brainstorming with the different branches of features and your target market and user interface and marketing strategy. You might also use it for problem solving. So maybe there's a problem in the business and you're analyzing solutions with different branches for the causes and the solutions and what you can do. So clearly, mind mapping is a very versatile tool. It can be adapted to a lot of different situations. And I love it for so many different reasons. It can help us clarify our thoughts. It can help us effectively plan. And it helps us to really see the connections between different components. It's often this very powerful tool that helps us nonlinear thinking brains see the big picture and understand the different related components and how they all fit together. It can help us feel quite a bit more grounded when we're looking at what might otherwise seem like a really complex problem. And by understanding the different types of mind maps and following the simple 3-step, or if you want to get fancy, 5-step if you're bringing in colors and keywords, but by understanding this simple process, we can really leverage the mind mapping tool to support your brain and make progress on both your personal and professional goals. So, now that we've taken this deep dive into the world of mind mapping, I would love for you to give it a try, and I would love to hear about it. Whether you're planning your next big project, or you're tackling some complex problem, or you're mapping out a vacation, or you're just organizing your thoughts for the day because you have a lot of things going on and you want to map it out and see what's going on in your head. I am telling you, mind mapping can be quite a game changer. So grab a piece of paper or your favorite mind mapping tool, or go get my free workbook at I'mBusyBeingAwesome.com/mindmap and start with that central idea and then branch out from there. I cannot wait to hear how it goes. Don't forget to share your mind maps with me over on social media. You can tag me. I'm at I'mBusyBeingAwesome. Send me a DM. I can't wait to hear how it's going. All right, my friends, that's going to do it for us this week. And again, be sure to grab this free workbook. It is filled with different mind mapping templates that you can use and get started on your projects today. It's at I'mBusyBeingAwesome.com/mindmap. And if you know someone who would love to learn more about mind mapping and how they can use it in their life, would you be a rock star and share this episode with them? You could send it to them in a text message or snap a screenshot and share it on your Instagram stories. Whatever you do, please know that I am so appreciative of you helping me get these strategies to even more busy, awesome brains who need them. Until next time, keep being awesome. I'll talk with you soon.